Hi, everyone. Joey here. Welcome to week 4. So anybody else becoming disillusioned? Like, I know a lot of this information already. Uh, yeah, I know I should tell my story. And yes, I hear these things going on in my head. So none of this information is going to be new or particularly groundbreaking. Uh, the magic is in the practice. That's it. Most of us have read all the self-help books that we could ever need, or watched enough videos, or gone to enough trainings, or heard enough wise statements from our grandparents, our parents. We've heard all of this before. We have been told to breathe and relax and calm. All of that for really good reasons. I mean, there's science backing it up now, but it's always been there. We've been told. So, I mean, what prevents us from doing it? What prevents us from living our best life? Ugh, cliche. What prevents you from living on purpose? What prevents us from breaking away from the herd? Not to be sheep, not to be robots. I mean, what? So it's the application. Like in the food world, I'm a vegan advocate. I'm plant-based eating coach and all of that. And the argument that I hear so often in that arena is that disease gets passed down from generation to generation. Oh, heart disease is in my family, we hear. And again, research. And if we just kind of pulled back from our particular fragment of life and kind of zoomed out and looked at the whole, we can see these bigger cycles happening. And in that, it says, oh, maybe it's not necessarily the disease that's passed down, but it is our lifestyle and what's on the dinner table, the way that we eat, what we think about food, what we think about movement, what we think about general over being, the thought, the concept, what we've been taught, how to take care of this carcass that we're all living in. So if your family has a certain way of doing that, they're going to pass it down to you. And so by the time whenever you leave that nest, you're going to think that that's your idea and that that's who you are. And yet we're all a part of this programming that has happened for our entire lives. Family units, then school, society, culture, and however your rings of influence extend out, those are the people who have formed you into who you are. And then now when we get ready to pass down our own thoughts and ideas and beliefs and the way that we want to live, the question is, are you doing that on purpose? Or are you just passing on that which was just given to you, unbeknownst to you? So today's focus on module 4 is on unenforceable rules. And this is, I think, very significant in that most of us have had some sort of training around this topic. But the more that we examine it and then more we apply it within our lives, the more it's like more tangible and it gives us a sense of relief. So let me see if I can share with you what I mean. Unenforceable rules, guys. These are the rules that we have set for ourselves and others that we have no possible way of making other people accountable for. We tend to put a lot of like a moral twist or a high ground twist or a highbrow, high chair, a high horse twist to a lot of these. So just think about what you mean by honesty. What do you mean by that? How do you live that out? What do people do to show you that? How do people earn this? Same with integrity. I mean, if I ask any group of folks, go into this room and discuss for a little bit and come back with your top 3 values or morals or really good ideas for all society and all people to live by. And these are the ones that I tend to get: honesty, integrity, truth, respect. So there's just like these common ones that we just kind of whip around and throw around all over and put it on our mission statements and try to hold other people accountable to them. But I can take any one of these words that you see on the screen and I can pull it apart, pick it apart, not only in the way that we're applying it to others, but definitely there's going to be a disconnect to way that we apply it from person to person, depending on if we know them or not, or to ourselves versus other people. So just kind of check that out for yourself and hold it lightly. So if we were talking about unenforceable rules in the helping field, that's where I'm in, social work, those kinds of work. I hear a lot of underlying currents that shoulds all over clients, or shoulds all over like what an agency does. Think about that. It's this entity, right? But it's made up of people, right? So what my agency should and shouldn't be doing, what my bosses or my higher ups or the person I report to or the board, what they should be and shouldn't be doing. We point to stories of people overcoming and then shit on all of ours, not only just the clients, but on each other, coworkers and such too. And then we almost have the thing about, depending on who we're talking to, that I'm the professional here, so people shouldn't challenge me on my ideas or the rules that I'm following or the way that I'm following them, because I'm the professional, I'm the boss, I'm the XYZ. We fill in that blank. Okay. Oh gosh, I don't know why this irks me so much, but this is one of the ones that particularly bother me, because maybe we say it so much to each other, which is on one hand really great idea, but the application of it sometimes is so soft and loose and makes me feel yucky. And that is the whole idea of, if I can do it, you can do it. This is what I did, now you can do it. Not everybody has the same emotional capacity, physical capacity, mental capacity, all the capacities to determine if that statement is true or not. But we often say that, look at me, look at what I was able to do. You should be able to do that too. So on one hand, I think it's used as kind of this motivation, rah. But actually listen to that. Okay. We just have this general statement of, thinking that life, even if we don't say it, there is this tendency to think that life rewards those who work hard. And we know that because sometimes if things don't go our way, then we'll say things like, God, life is so freaking unfair, so unfair. And yet we'll turn right around and tell our kids, if you're anything like me, my kids used to come on and go, oh, Mom, and so-and-so is not fair. Who said life was going to be fair? Who? I don't treat, not three of my three kids. I had three kids, have three kids. I don't treat any of you guys fairly. Like, that would be silly. But we say that quite often. Or fill in the blank with any of my favorite go-to words. People should be as fair as me. Well, how fair am I? People should be as honest as me. Well, how honest am I? People should be as punctual as I am. Well, depending on what location, I'm super punctual. And other things, people would say, I am never on time. So this can be quickly turned into, well, so what are you telling me? Don't have boundaries? Absolutely not. This is about your internal state. Externally, I don't care what you do. That's not where the pain is, except that you're causing it to other people probably. But this is like, if it's just contained with just you, this lesson is, how do you feel? How do you feel? Every time you shit on somebody, does it feel like you're, taking a little sip of poison and expecting that person to behave in the way that you thought that they should behave? Like in your mind, you're like, oh, that person needs to be, oh. Every time we do that, we're releasing this, we're constricting our blood vessels, our flow. We're releasing hormones that wreak havoc in our cardiovascular system, our liver, our immune system. That every time we feel that pinch, that bite, that constriction, that stickiness of trying to go, oh, that person should behave in this kind of way that would make everything so much better. And here they will never. Right? So every time you feel that, that's us taking a little sip of poison, thinking that somebody else is going to do something differently, and yet they never do. So here's how this plays out. Remember we talked about that expectation and reality? Yeah. And it's the gap in between that space where we can suffer if we're willing to suffer. And so here's the way that'll work. I'm going to look around and I'm going to talk to you about my reality, but my reality is actually my perception of what life is, what life looks like right now. So I can say things like, generally people are, life is, I'll make these sweeping statements, and that's telling you how I see life, right? And depending on how different that is from this expectation that I have of life, this is how people should be. This is how they should live, behave, act, and be. And life will reward so and so. Life should punish such and such. But above all else, life should be here to just kind of validate my existence, validate my life, validate me personally. So depending on how hard and fast those rules are, this is how people should be, all the shitting, depending on how hard and fast those rules are for you, the more or less you'll do some of this ruminating, thinking about it, right? Blaming somebody else, taking it personally. And then that will determine how much space you have inside of you for either fear or love. That's it. Either fear or love. So in that constriction, that's all fear-based. So think about that. Every time you think about a constriction, nobody goes, "Ooh, yeah, I feel constricted." No, that means there isn't any space there for love, for peace, for joy. In that constriction, when we're shitting all over people, we'll make a lot of fear-based decisions. We'll set a lot of fear-based boundaries. So this is really ultimately about love or fear and the formula that goes on in your mind. And if you want to do some work around that, then here's what you can do. Step 1, take a screenshot of this ticket. This is like we were all born with endless amounts of violation tickets that we're going to write out for each other. Yeah. And it's like we're all, been deemed hall monitor or, violation cop on the corner. And we sit there and we'll fill these out and notice them going on in your mind throughout today, throughout the rest of the week. So every time you feel like so-and-so should have or life should have, go ahead and pull out a violation ticket. It'd be cool if you could write a total of 10 throughout our time together between now and next lesson. So think about who you're writing this ticket for, right? And then either today's date or the moment you felt that violation happening. And then write out in long form, what did they do? So describe the action that they took. Describe the actions that took that made you go, oh. And then go ahead and put out the fine. So the fine is what you're saying they should pay to right that wrong. So 1, we've determined that they've created some sort of, they're violating something. So sometimes it will say things like, oh, that person cut me off on the road. It's obviously that driver. And it's drivers like that every day. So I probably write one of these fines every day. What did they do? They didn't signal. They were going too fast. They cut me off. So those are all longhand forms. Like that list could be endless or it could just be one. And then the fine is how long I carry that and what I'm just listening to my brain. So sometimes it's a revenge fantasy. Oh, I'm gonna, speed ahead of them and then push on my brakes. I'll never do that. That's why it's a revenge fantasy. But in my mind, it gives me some sort of deliciousness when I see myself and then them freaking out. In kind, I'm going to get them back, right? But sometimes the fine is an actual retaliation. So think about the violations you might carry for people that are close to you in your life. So like a parent who has wronged you or wasn't there to protect you when you were young. Sometimes when that parent calls you on your phone, and you see that ring, I go, oh, it's my mom. Gosh, she's such a... That little act right there, that's a retaliatory act. The fact that I didn't answer that phone is not the problem. The fact that I purposely saw that, I might have answered it for somebody else, but I'm going to make her wait. So it's what's happening within me that prevents me from answering that phone. And then that eye roll for the benefit of whoever is with me is that for however long, my mom will suffer the wrath of me gossiping about her just a little bit and condemning her in front of others just a little bit. Oh, it's my mom. Yeah. So, I mean, where does that fit within my own desire to live with integrity? Yeah. So when I'm making people pay a fine, whether it's more often it's these retaliations and not the revenge fantasies that help serve that purpose of righting that power struggle. but more of the retaliations. I'm interested in knowing what is it that I'm actually doing that I might not be proud of. And then go ahead and write those down. Because the steps to dismantling unenforceable rules is, first, we got to be able to recognize them. Sometimes we do not stop to listen to ourselves long enough for us to recognize that we are participating in this shit ass life that we're living in. Yeah. So to do this repetitive exercise might help uncover some patterns within you, some ways that you're behaving that you might not be proud of, the things that people do over and over and over and over again that drive you crazy. It doesn't matter who the person is. So this will help unveil some of the things that you're holding on to. And recognizing that, if in writing those tickets, you felt that frustration pop up, recognizing that even though that thing happened last week, every time I think about this, I get that sip of poison. So recognizing our unenforceable rules and actually recognizing the impact on our body is really important. And then step 2 is to remind myself that, okay, Joey, right now you're fine. Nobody's cutting you off. Everything is all well with people calling and not calling. It's all good, right? And that surge of that pain came from trying to have people behave the way that I want them to behave versus recognizing them for who they are. 3, check in with your willingness to challenge these unenforceable rules, right? Recognize that within yourself. And then if you are indeed like willing, then you got to ask, like, exactly what is it that you're asking somebody else to do, with your shoulds. What is my exact demand out of life or out of people, right? And the biggest giveaway is the word should. But we sometimes sometimes would say it as a declarative fact, but it is like value statements, declarations of some sort that will give you that indicator that you are demanding something to be different or your way. Number 5 is to recognize that words are important. They have power. We swap out so many words, but they're important. And so every moment that you recognize that you have this demand, see if you can soften that up with a wish or a hope or your heart's greatest desire. What I really want in this moment, what I really hope for, what I really desire. So for every ticket that you've written, go ahead and flip that over and go ahead and rewrite that statement into a statement of a wish or a hope. Because when you shed that demand and hope or wish that things be a certain way, then you will think more clearly because you're not hijacked by those emotions and those hormones. And then you'll think more clearly, you'll feel more peaceful, and then you'll be able to behave in a more peaceful manner throughout the rest of your day. So go ahead and check that out. Yeah. See if you are willing to dismantle your unenforceable rules. And in doing so, do you have more space for peace or joy? I hope these short little video trainings are helpful to you, and I will see you next week for week 5. We only have 2 left. Yeah, go ahead and post any questions that you might have for any one of us or message me directly. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Aloha.